Hey, welcome back to Yehusha's Glory. We are in chapter 73 of Jasher, page 439 in the Sefer, chapter 73. I'm going to get started. In the 5th year of the reign of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, that is in the 157th year of Israel, going down into Mitzrayim, reigned Moshe in Cush. So that's Moses we're talking about. Moshe was 27 years old when he began to reign over Cush, and 40 years did he reign. Now Yahuwah granted Moshe favor and grace in the eyes of all the children of Cush, and the children of Cush loved him exceedingly. So Moshe was favored by Yahuwah and by men. And in the 7th day of his reign, all the children of Cush assembled and came before Moshe and bowed down to him to the ground, and all the children spoke together in the presence of the king, saying, "Give us counsel that we may see what is to be done to this city. For it is now 9 years that we have been besieging round the city, and have not seen our children and our women." So the king answered them, saying, "If you will hearken to my voice in all that I shall command you, then will Yahuwah give the city into our hands, and we shall subdue it. For if we fight with them, as in the former battle which we had with them before the death of Kikianus, many of us will fall down wounded as before." Okay. "Now therefore, behold, here is counsel for you in this matter. If you will hearken to my voice, then will the city be delivered into your hands, into our hands." So all the forces answered the king, saying, "All that our Lord shall command, that we will do." And Moshe said unto them, "Pass through and proclaim a voice in the whole camp unto all the people, saying, Thus says the king, Go into the forest, and bring with you of the young ones of the stork, each man a young one in his hand. And any person transgressing the word of the king, who shall not bring his young one, he shall die, and the king will take all belonging to him. And when you shall bring them, they shall be in your keeping. You shall rear them until they grow up, and you shall teach them to dart upon, as is the way of the young ones of the hawk." So all the children of Cush heard the words of Moshe, and they rose up and caused a proclamation to be issued throughout the camp, saying, "Unto you, all the children of Cush, the king's order is that you go all together to the forest and catch there the young storks, each man his young one in his hand, and ye shall bring them home. And any person violating the order of the king shall die, and the king will take all that belongs to him." And all the people did so, and they went out to the wood, and they climbed the fir trees, and caught each man a young one in his hand, all the young of the storks, and they brought them into the desert, and reared them by order of the king, and they taught them to dart upon, similar to the young hawks. And after the young storks were reared, the king ordered them to be hungered for 3 days, and all the people did so. And on the 3rd day the king said unto them, "Strengthen yourselves, and become valiant men, and put on each man his armor, and gird on his sword upon him, and ride each man his horse, and take each his young stork in his hand. And we will rise up and fight against the city at the place where the serpents are." And all the people did as the king had ordered, and they took each man his young one in his hand, and they went away. And when they came to the place of the serpents, the king said to them, "Send forth each man his young stork upon the serpents." And they sent forth each man his young stork at the king's order, and the young storks ran upon the serpents, and they devoured them all, and destroyed them out of that place. And when the king and people had seen that all the serpents were destroyed in that place, all the people set up a great shout. And they approached and fought against the city, and took it, and subdued it. And they entered the city, and there died on that day 1,100 men of the people of the city, all that inhabited the city. But the peoples besieging, not one died. So all the children of Cush went each to his home, to his women and children, and to all belonging to him. And Balaam the magician, when he saw that the city was taken, he opened the gate, and he and his 2 sons and 8 brothers fled, and returned to Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. They are the sorcerers and magicians who are mentioned in the Sefer of the Torah, standing against Moshe when Yahuwah brought the plagues upon Mitzrayim. So Moshe took the city by his wisdom, and the children of Cush placed him on the throne instead of Kikianus, king of Cush. And they placed the royal crown upon his head, and they gave him for a woman Adoniah, the Cushi queen, woman of Kikianus. And Moshe feared Yahuwah Elohim of his fathers, so that he came not to her, nor did he turn his eyes to her. For Moshe remembered how Abraham had made his servant Eliezer swear, saying unto him, You shall not take a woman from the daughters of Canaan for my son Yitzhak. Also what Yitzhak did when Yaakov had fled from his brother, when he commanded him, saying, You shall not take a woman from the daughters of Canaan, nor make alliance with any of the children of Cham. For Yahuwah Elohinu gave Cham, the son of Noah, or Ham, and his children and all his seed, as slaves to the children of Shem, and to the children of Japheth, and unto their seed after them slaves forever. Therefore Moshe turned not his heart nor his eyes to the woman of Kikianus all the days that he reigned over Cush. And Moshe feared Yahuwah Eliyahu and his life. And Moshe walked before Yahuwah in truth with all his heart and soul. He turned not from the right way all the days of his life. He declined not from the way either to the right or to the left, in which Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov had walked. And Moshe strengthened himself in the kingdom of the children of Cush, and he guided the children of Cush with his usual wisdom. And Moshe prospered in his kingdom, and at that time Aram and the children of the east heard that Kikianus, king of Cush, had died. So Aram and the children of the east rebelled against Cush in those days. And Moshe gathered all the children of Cush, a people very mighty, about 30,000 men, and he went forth to fight with Aram and the children of the east. And they went at first to the children of the east, and when the children of the east heard their report, they went to meet them and engaged in battle with them. And the war was severe against the children of the east. So Yahuwah gave all the children of the east into the hand of Moshe, and about 300 men fell down slain. And all the children of the east turned back and retreated. So Moshe and the children of Cush followed them and subdued them and put a tax upon them, as was their custom. So Moshe and all the people with him passed from there to the land of Aram for battle, and the people of Aram also went to meet them, and they fought against them, and Yahuwah delivered them into the hand of Moshe. And many of the men of Aram fell down wounded. And Aram also were subdued by Moshe and the people of Cush, and also gave their usual tax. And Moshe brought Aram and the children of the east under subjection to the children of Cush, and Moshe and all the people who were with him turned to the land of Cush. And Moshe strengthened himself in the kingdom of the children of Cush, and Yahuwah was with him, and all the children of Cush were afraid of him. Chapter 74, page 441, Jasher. In the end of years died Shaul, king of Edom, and Baal Shannon, the son of Achbor, reigned in his place. In the 16th year of the reign of Moshe over Cush, Baal Shannon, the son of Achbor, reigned in the land of Edom over all the children of Edom for 38 years. In his days Moab rebelled against the power of Edom, having been under Edom since the days of Hadad, the son of Bidad, who smote them and Midian, and brought Moab under subjection to Edom. And when Baal Shannon, the son of Achbor, reigned over Edom, all the children of Moab withdrew their allegiance from Edom. And Angeas, king of Africa, died in those days, and Asdrubal, his son, reigned in his stead. And in those days died Janus, king of the children of Kittaim, and they buried him in his temple, which he had built for himself in the plain of Canopia for a residence, and Latinus reigned in his stead. In the 22nd year of the reign of Moshe over the children of Cush, Latinus reigned over the children of Kittaim 45 years. And he also built for himself a great and mighty tower, and he built therein an elegant temple for his residence to conduct his government as was the custom. In the 3rd year of his reign, he caused a proclamation to be made to all his skillful men, who made many ships for him. And Latinus assembled all his forces, and they came in ships, and went therein to fight with Asdrubal, son of Angeas, king of Africa. And they came to Africa and engaged in battle with Asdrubal and his army And Latinus prevailed over Asdrubal, and Latinus took from Asdrubal the aqueduct, which his father had brought from the children of Kittaim when he took Janiah, the daughter of Uzi, for a woman. So Latinus overthrew the bridge of the aqueduct and smote the whole army of Asdrubal a severe blow. And the remaining strong men of Asdrubal strengthened themselves, and their hearts were filled with envy, and they courted death, and again engaged in battle with Latinus, king of Kittaim. And the battle was severe upon all the men of Africa, and they all fell wounded before Latinus and his people. And Asdrubal the king also fell in that battle. And the king Asdrubal had a very beautiful daughter whose name was Ushpizena. And all the men of Africa embroidered her likeness on their garments on account of her great beauty and comely appearance. And the men of Latinus saw Ushpizena, the daughter of Asdrubal, and praised her unto Latinus their king. And Latinus ordered her to be brought to him. And Latinus took Ushpizena for a woman, and he turned back on his way to Kittaim. And it was after the death of Asdrubal, son of Angeas, when Latinus had turned back to his land from the battle, that all the inhabitants of Africa rose up and took Anibal, the son of Angeas, the younger brother of Asdrubal, and made him king at his brother over the whole land of Africa, instead of his brother. And when he reigned, he resolved to go to Kittaim to fight with the children of Kittaim to avenge the cause of Asdrubal his brother and the cause of the inhabitants of Africa, and he did so. And he made many ships, and he came therein with his whole army, and he went to Kittaim. So Anibal fought with the children of Kittaim, and the children of Kittaim fell wounded before Anibal and his army, and Anibal avenged his brother's cause. And Anibal continued the war for 18 years with the children of Kittaim. And Anibal dwelt in the land of Kittaim and encamped there for a long time. And Anibal smote the children of Kittaim very severely, and he slew their great men and princes. And of the rest of the people he smote about 80,000 men. And at the end of days and years, Anibal returned to his land of Africa, and he reigned securely in the place of Asdrubal his brother. Chapter 75, page 442, Jasher. At that time, in the 180th year of Israel going down into Mitzrayim, there went forth from Mitzrayim valiant men, 30,000 on foot, from the children of Israel, who were all of the tribe of Joseph, of the children of Ephraim, the son of Joseph, for they said the period was completed which Yehusha had appointed to the children of Israel in the time of old, which he had spoken to Abraham. And these men girded themselves, and they put each man his sword at his side, and every man his armor upon him, and they trusted to their strength, and they went out together from Mitzrayim with a mighty hand. But they brought no provision for the road, only silver and gold. Not even bread for that day did they bring in their hands, for they thought of getting their provisions for pay from the Palestine. If not, they would take it by force. And these men were very mighty and valiant men. One man could pursue 1,000, and two could rout 10,000. So they trusted in their strength, and went together as they were, and they directed their course toward the land of Gath. They went down and found the shepherds of Gath feeding the cattle and the children of Gath, the cattle of the children of Gath. And they said to the shepherds, "Give us some of the sheep for pay, that we may eat, for we are hungry. For we have eaten no bread this day." And the shepherds said, "Are they our sheep or cattle, that we should give them to you even for pay?" So the children of Ephraim approached to take them by force. And the shepherds of Gath shouted over them that their cry was heard at a distance. So all the children of Gath went out to them, and when the children of Gath saw the evil doings of the children of Ephraim, they returned and assembled the men of Gath, and they put on each man his armor, and came forth to the children of Ephraim for battle, and they engaged with them in the valley of Gath, and the battle was severe. And they smote from each other a great many on that day. And on the second day, the children of Gath sent to all the cities of the Palestine, that they should come to their help, saying, Come up unto us and help us, that we may smite the children of Ephraim, who have come forth from Mitzrayim to take our cattle, and to fight against us without cause. Now the souls of the children of Ephraim were exhausted with hunger and thirst, for they had eaten no bread for 3 days. And 40,000 men went forth from the cities of Palestine to the assistance of the men of Gath, and these men were engaged in battle with the children of Ephraim. And Yahuwah delivered the children of Ephraim into the hands of the Palestine. And they smote all the children of Ephraim. All who had gone forth from Mitzrayim, none were remaining but 10 men who had run away from the engagement. For this evil was from Yahuwah against the children of Ephraim, for they transgressed the word of Yahuwah in going forth from Mitzrayim before the period had arrived which Yahuwah in the days of old had appointed to Yisrael. And of the Palestine also there fell a great many, about 20,000 men, and their brethren carried them and buried them in their cities. And the slain of the children of Ephraim remained forsaken in the valley of Gath for many days and years, and were not brought to burial, and the valley was filled with men's bones. And the men who had escaped from the battle came to Mitzrayim and told all the children of Israel that had befallen them. Told them all that had befallen them. And their father Ephraim mourned over them for many days, and his brethren came to console him. And he came unto his woman, and she bore a son, and he called his name Beriah, for she was unfortunate in his house. Chapter 76, page 442, Jasher. And Moshe, the son of Amram, was still king in the land of Cush in those days, and he prospered in his kingdom, and he conducted the government of the children of Cush in justice, in righteousness, and integrity. And all the children of Cush loved Moshe all the days that he reigned over them, and all the inhabitants of the land of Cush were greatly afraid of him. And in the 40th year of the reign of Moshe over Cush, Moshe was sitting on the royal throne, while Adoniah the queen was before him. And all the nobles were sitting around him, and Adoniah the queen said before the king and the princes, "What is this thing which you, the children of Cush, have done for this long time? Surely you know that for 40 years that this man has reigned over Cush. He has not approached me, nor has he served the Elohim of the children of Cush. Now therefore hear, O ye children of Cush, and let this man no more reign over you, as he is not of our flesh. Behold, Menacrus, my son, is grown up. Let him reign over you, for it is better for you to serve the son of your Lord than to serve a stranger, slave of the king of Mitzrayim." And all the people and the nobles and the children of Cush heard the words which Adoniah the queen had spoken in their ears. And all the people were preparing until the evening. And in the morning they rose up early and made Menacrus, son of Kikianus, king over them. And all the children of Cush were afraid to stretch forth their hand against Moshe, for Yahuwah was with Moshe. And the children of Cush remembered the oath which they swore unto Moshe. Therefore they did no harm to him. But the children of Cush gave many presents to Moshe, and sent him from them with great honor. So Moshe went forth from the land of Cush, and went home, and ceased to reign over Cush. And Moshe was 66 years old when he went out of the land of Cush. For the thing was from Yahuwah. For the period had arrived which he had appointed in the days of old, to bring forth Yisrael from the affliction of the children of Cham. So Moshe went to Midian, and he was afraid to return to Mitzrayim on account of Pharaoh. And he went and sat at a well of water in Midian. And the 7 daughters of Reuel the Midianite went out to feed their father's flock. And they came to the well and drew water to water their father's flock. So the shepherds of Midian came and drove them away. And Moshe rose up and helped them and watered the flock. And they came home to their father Reuel and told him what Moshe did for them. And they said, "A Mitzri man has delivered us from the hands of the shepherds. He drew up water for us and watered the flock." And Reuel said to his daughters, "And where is he? Wherefore have you left the man?" And Reuel sent for him, and fetched him, and brought him home, and he ate bread with him. And Moshe related to Reuel that he had fled from Mitzrayim, and that he reigned 40 years over Cush, and that they afterward had taken the government from him, and had sent him away in peace, with honor and with presents. And when Reuel had heard the words of Moshe, Reuel said within himself, I will put this man into the prison house, whereby I shall conciliate the children of Cush, for he has fled from them. And they took and put him into the prison house, and Moshe was in prison 10 years. And while Moshe was in prison house, Zipporah, the daughter of Reuel, took pity over him and supported him with bread and water all the time. And all the children of Israel were yet in the land of Mitzrayim, serving the Mitzrayim in all manner of hard work. And the hand of Mitzrayim continued in severity over the children of Israel in those days. At that time, Yehusha smote Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and he afflicted with the plague of leprosy from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, owing to the cruel treatment of the children of Israel was this plague at that time from Yehusha upon Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. For Yehusha had hearkened to the prayer of his people, the children of Israel, and their cry reached him on account of their hard work. Still his anger did not turn from them, and the hand of Pharaoh was still stretched out against the children of Israel. And Pharaoh hardened his neck before Yehusha, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel, and embittered their lives with all manner of hard work. And when Yehusha had inflicted the plague upon Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, he asked his wise men and sorcerers to cure him. And his wise men and sorcerers said unto him, that if the blood of little children were put into the wounds, he would be healed. And Pharaoh hearkened to them, and sent his ministers to Goshen to the children of Israel to take their little children. And Pharaoh's ministers went and took the infants of the children of Israel from the bosoms of their mothers by force, and they brought them to Pharaoh daily, a child each day, and the physicians killed them and applied them to the plague. Thus did they all the days. And the number of the children which Pharaoh slew was 375. But Yehusha hearkened not to the physicians of the king of Mitzrayim. The plague went on increasing mightily. And the Pharaoh was 10 years afflicted with that plague. Still the heart of Pharaoh was more hardened against the children of Israel. And at the end of 10 years, Yehusha continued to afflict Pharaoh with destructive plagues, and Yehusha smote him with a bad tumor and sickness of the stomach. And that plague turned to a severe boil. At that time, the 2 ministers of Pharaoh came from the land of Goshen, where all the children of Israel were, and went to the house of Pharaoh and said to him, we have seen the children of Israel slacken in their work and negligent in their labor. And when Pharaoh heard the words of his ministers, his anger was kindled against the children of Israel exceedingly, for he was greatly grieved at his bodily pain. And he answered and said, now that the children of Israel know that I am ill, they turn and scoff at us. Now therefore, harness my chariot for me, and I will betake myself to Goshen, and will see the scoff of the children of Israel with which they are deriding me. So his servants harnessed the chariot for him. And they took and made him ride upon a horse, for he was not able to ride of himself. And he took with him 10 horsemen and 10 footmen, and went to the children of Israel to Goshen. And when they had come to the border of Mitzrayim, the king's horse passed into a narrow place, elevated in the hollow part of the vineyard, fenced on both sides, the low, plain country being on the other side. And the horses ran rapidly in that place and pressed each other, and the horses pressed the king's horse, and the king's horse fell into the low plain while the king was riding upon it. And when he fell, the chariot turned over the king's face, and the horse lay upon the king, and the king cried out, for his flesh was very sore, and the flesh of the king was torn from him, and his bones were broken, and he could not ride, for this thing was from Yehusha to him. For Yehusha had heard the cries of his people, the children of Israel, and their affliction, and his servants carried him upon their shoulders, a little at a time, and they brought him back to Mitzrayim, and the horsemen who were with him came also back to Mitzrayim. And they placed him in his bed, and the king knew that his end was come to die. So Apparanith, the queen, his woman, came and cried before the king, and the king wept a great weeping with her. And all his nobles and servants came on that day and saw the king in that affliction, and wept a great weeping with him. And the princes of the king and all his counselors advised the king to cause one to reign in his stead in the land, whomsoever he should choose from his sons. And the king had 3 sons and 2 daughters, which Apparanith, the queen, his woman, had borne to him, besides the king's children of concubines. And these were their names: the firstborn, Othri; the second, Adikam; the third, Morion; and their sisters, the name of the elder, Bathia; and of the other, Akusi. And Othri, the firstborn of the king, was an idiot, precipitate, and hurried in his words. But Adikam was a cunning and wise man, and knowing in all the wisdom of Mitzrayim, but of unseemly aspect, thick in flesh and very short in stature. His height was 1 cubit. And when the king saw Adikam, his son, intelligent and wise in all things, the king resolved that he should be king in his stead after his death. And he took for him a woman, Gedudah, daughter of Abilat, and he was 10 years old, and she bore unto him 4 sons. And he afterward went and took 3 women, and begat 8 sons and 3 daughters. And the disorder greatly prevailed over the king, and his flesh stank like the flesh of a carcass cast upon the field in summertime during the heat of the sun. And when the king saw that his sickness had greatly strengthened itself over time, he ordered his son Adikam to be brought before him, and they made him king over the land in his place. And at the end of 3 years, the king died in shame, disgrace, and disgust, and his servants carried him and buried him in the sepulchre of the kings of Mitzrayim, and so on Mitzrayim. But they embalmed him not as was usual with kings, for his flesh was putrid. And they could not approach to embalm him on account of the stench. So they buried him in haste, for this evil was from Yehusha to him. For Yehusha had requited him evil for the evil which in his days he had done to Israel. And he died with terror and with shame, and his son Adikam reigned in his place. Excuse me. Chapter 77, page 44. 444, excuse me. Page 444, chapter 77. Jasher. Adikam was 20 years old when he reigned over Mitzrayim. He reigned 4 years. In the 206th year of Israel going down to Mitzrayim did Adikam reign over Mitzrayim, but he continued not so long in his reign over Mitzrayim as his fathers had continued their reigns. For Melol, his father, reigned 94 years in Mitzrayim, but he was 10 years sick and died, for he had been wicked before Yehusha. And all the Mitzrayim called the name of Adikam Pharaoh, like the name of his fathers, as was their custom to do in Mitzrayim. And all the wise men of Pharaoh called the name of Adikam Ahuz. For short is called Ahuz in the Mitzrayim language. And Adikam was exceedingly ugly, and he was a cubit and a span, and he had a great beard which reached to the soles of his feet. And Pharaoh sat upon his father's throne to reign over Mitzrayim, and he conducted the government of Mitzrayim in his wisdom. And while he reigned, he exceeded his father and all the preceding kings in wickedness. And he increased his yoke over the children of Israel, and he went with his servants to Goshen to the children of Israel, and he strengthened the labor over them, and he said unto them, Complete your work each day's task, and let not your hands slacken from our work from this day forward, as you did in the days of my father. And he placed officers over them from amongst the children of Israel, and over these officers he placed taskmasters from amongst his servants. And he placed over them a measure of bricks, for them to do according to that number, day by day. And he turned back and went to Mitzrayim. At that time, the taskmasters of Pharaoh ordered the officers of the children of Israel according to the command of Pharaoh, saying, Thus says Pharaoh, do your work each day, and finish your task, and observe the daily measure of bricks. Diminish not anything, and it shall come to pass that if you are deficient in your daily bricks, I will put your young children in their stead. And the taskmasters of Mitzrayim did so in those days, as Pharaoh had ordered them. And whenever any deficiency was found in the children of Israel's measure of their daily bricks, the taskmaster of Pharaoh would go to the women of the children of Israel and take infants of the children of Israel to the number of bricks deficient. They would take them by force from their mothers' laps and put them in the building instead of the bricks, while their fathers and mothers were crying over them and weeping when they heard the weeping voices of their infants in the wall of the building. And the taskmasters prevailed over Israel, that the Yisraelim should place their children in the building, so that a man placed his son in the wall and put mortar over him, while his eyes wept over him, and his tears ran down upon his child. And the taskmasters of Mitzrayim did so to the babes of Israel for many days, and no one pitied or had compassion over the babes of the children of Israel. And the number of all the children killed in the building was 270, some whom they had built upon instead of the bricks, which had been left deficient by their fathers, and some whom they had drawn out dead from the building. And the labor imposed upon the children of Israel in the days of Adikam exceeded in hardship that which they performed in the days of his father. And the children of Israel sighed every day on account of their heavy work, for they had said to themselves, Behold, when Pharaoh shall die, his son will rise up and lighten our work. But they increased the latter work more than the former. And the children of Israel sighed at this, and their cry ascended to Elohim on account of their labor. And Elohim heard the voice of the children of Israel and their cry in those days. And Elohim remembered to them his covenant which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Elohim saw the burden of the children of Israel and their heavy work in those days, and he determined to deliver them. And Moshe, the son of Amram, was still confined in the dungeon in those days in the house of Reuel the Midianite, and Zipporah, the daughter of Reuel, did support him with food secretly, day by day. And Moshe was confined in the dungeon in the house of Reuel for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, which was the first year of the reign of Pharaoh over Mitzrayim in the place of his father, Zipporah said to her father Reuel, No person inquires or seeks after the ivory man, whom you did bind in prison now 10 years. Now therefore, if it seem good in your sight, let us send and see whether he is living or dead. But her father knew not that she had supported him. And Reuel her father answered and said to her, Has ever such a thing happened, that a man should be shut up in a prison without food for 10 years, and that he should live? And Zipporah answered her father, saying, Surely you have heard that the Elohim of the Ivorim is great and awful, and does wonders for them at all times. It was who delivered Abraham from Ur of the Kasdim, Isaac from the sword of his father, and Jacob from the angel of Yahuwah, who wrestled with him at the ford of Jabbok. Also with this man has he done many things. He delivered him from the river of Mitzrayim, from the sword of Pharaoh, from the children of Cush. So also he can deliver him from famine and make him live. And the king seemed good. And the thing seemed good in the sight of Reuel, and he did according to the word of his daughter, and he sent to the dungeon to ascertain what became of Moshe. And he saw, and behold, the man Moshe was living in the dungeon, standing upon his feet, praising and praying to Elohim of his ancestors. And Reuel commanded Moshe to be brought out of the dungeon, so they shaved him, and he changed his prison garments and ate bread. And afterward Moshe went into the garden of Reuel, which was behind the house, and he there prayed to Yahuwah Eloihu, who had done mighty wonders for him. And it was that, while he prayed, he looked opposite to him. Behold, a sapphire stick was placed in the ground, which was planted in the midst of the garden. And he approached the stick, and he looked, and behold, the name of Yahuwah Elohim Sevaot was engraved thereon, written and developed upon the stick. And he read it, and stretched forth his hand, and he plucked it like a forest tree from the thicket, and the stick was in his hand. And this is the stick with which all the works of our Elohim were performed, after he had created heaven and earth, and all the host of them, seas, rivers, and all their fishes. And when Elohim had driven Adam from the Garden of Eden, he took the stick in his hand, and went and tilled the ground from which he was taken. And the stick came down to Noach, and was given to Shem and his descendants, until it came into the hand of Abraham the ivory. And when Abraham had given all he had to his son Isaac, he also gave to him this stick. And when Jacob had fled to Paddan Aram, he took it into his hand, and when he returned to his father, he had not left it behind him. Also when he went down to Mitzrayim, he took it into his hand and gave it to Joseph, one portion above his brethren, for Jacob had taken it by force from his brother Esau. And after the death of Joseph, the nobles of Mitzrayim came into the house of Joseph, and the stick came into the hand of Reuel the Midianite. And when he went out of Mitzrayim, he took it in his hand and planted it in his garden. And all the mighty men of the Canaanite tried to pluck it when they endeavored to get Zipporah, his daughter, but they were unsuccessful. So that stick remained planted in the garden of Reuel until he came who had a right to it and took it. And when Reuel saw the stick in the hand of Moshe, she wondered at it, and he gave him, when he saw the stick in the hand of Moshe, he wondered at it, and he gave him his daughter Zipporah for a woman. We're out of time. I'm going to go ahead and close it up right now. I want to thank you all very much for being here. We're going to go to chapter 78 next time. Bless all of you all, men and women, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions or comments or concern, use the P.O. box and leave some comments on the bottom. I want to thank every one of you that have blessed us by leaving your comments. This is the greatest thing ever. I love you very much. Father loves us all. Have a great day. This is Yehusha's Glory.